Our tale begins with an everyday office worker heading off to meet a client. Despite a rocky start with failed negotiations, he keeps his spirits high, looking ahead to the prospect of more successful meetings. His perseverance pays off, and he successfully secures a deal, sparking joy within him and making him eagerly anticipate a possible promotion. In a striking contrast, elsewhere a man frantically bolts from a building, a firearm in his possession, fiercely pursued by an injured policeman. Their chase concludes in a physical altercation, a discharged bullet, and the office worker is caught in the crossfire. Stunned, he collapses, his thoughts swaying between his imminent promotion celebration and his unjust end. As he nears death, he expresses sadness about the difficulties of life, and his grievances reach God's divine ear. Touched by his troubles, God bestows upon him a second chance, reincarnating him into a world filled with magic and mythical creatures. Immediately, he finds himself amidst the magnificent sight of a colossal dragon soaring above him, signaling his arrival in this fantastic realm. Discovering the drastic change of his appearance, he also learns about his new abilities granted by the divine and how to navigate in this world. Experimenting with his abilities, he summons a status window like a video game interface. He realizes the extent of his transformation. He now has the body of a 15-year-old and the freedom to control his own destiny. Hoping to forge a path more rewarding than his previous existence, he names himself Lucille. Opting for skills in martial arts, magic control, and monster taming, he settles on the role of a healer, a less hazardous occupation, considering his reluctance to engage with the dangerous creatures in this world. Armed with a meager sum of 3 silver coins, Lucille acknowledges the necessity of employment. After all, in this world, 15-year-olds are deemed adults. Suddenly, he stumbles upon a monstrous corpse and hastily retreats, haunted by the prospect of an abrupt end to his second life. His objective is simple: to live a long life without such scares. Upon reaching a city, he observes the residents brandishing their ID cards and even parting with a toll at the entrance. When his turn comes, his lack of identification puzzles the guard. However, quickly adapting, Lucille spins a story of his upbringing in a small village where he learned the healing arts, but was forced out due to the village's disinterest in his skills. His fabricated tale is met with suspicion, but he is permitted to wait while the guard fetches Lumina, a woman of the city. Reiterating his backstory, Lumina guides him to the Healers Guild, relieving his worries about the entrance fee by informing him of the special privileges given to healers. On their way to the guild, a collision with a group of adventurers prompts Lucille to reveal his novice status and his wishes to become a trustworthy healer. The encounter concludes without incident, and he follows Lumina to the Healers Guild. Along the way, he learns of the favored treatment healers receive, exempting them from most duties, as they hold lives in their hands. Upon reaching the guild, he meets the clerk, Kururu, who hands him a form to fill out. Struggling initially due to his unfamiliarity with the language, his divine-granted language skill aids him in understanding and completing it. An unexpected obstacle arises when he's asked to provide his hometown's name, to which he cleverly responds by stating he simply referred to it as the village. After he completes the form, he seizes the chance to learn the city's name from Lumina, who reluctantly informs him it's Maritani, part of the Shuru Republic. With the completed form, Kururu returns bearing his guild card and instructs him to infuse his magic into it. Successfully doing so, Lucille registers a G-ranked healer. The narrative progresses as Kururu reclaims the card, taking it back behind the scenes. Luna proceeds to explain that she's cataloging his card into the network of the Healers Guild, a process that will permit him to utilize his card at any guild worldwide. With this, Kururu extends back his card to him, reinforcing his new role as a healer. Lumina reckons her task is complete, but the story takes an unexpected turn. Lucille stumbles upon a stumbling block, admitting that he is devoid of any magic knowledge. He reveals that his village was barren of any spell books, and being the pioneer healer, he had no way of harnessing his magical abilities. Luna finds his statement bewildering but patiently lays out 3 pathways for him to learn magic. The initial approach she outlines is a Spartan-like training. Lucille would plunge into magic studies from a book, practicing it to the point of exhausting his magic. Once his magic recharges, he'd repeat the cycle until the spell gets ingrained in him. The alternative choice is a more traditional 3-year school experience to study magic, though he'd have to repay the guild for the financial support. Lastly, Luna suggests an apprenticeship with the guild, enabling him to undertake various tasks and magic studies during his leisure time. As Lucille weighs the alternatives, he finds the apprenticeship most appealing but hesitates due to uncertainties regarding his free time. He contemplates the lengthy schooling option but is quickly reminded of the crippling student loans from his past life. Spartan training seems grueling, but he's optimistic about witnessing progress akin to his former life. His optimism is reinforced by the assessed mastery skill that enables him to track his skill development. Surprisingly, he ends up picking the Spartan training route, an option that leaves both Lumina and Kururu in shock, questioning his decision-making. Lucille expresses his gratitude to Lumina, vowing to reimburse her assistance someday. Wishing him luck, Lumina guides him to his room where a spell book awaits. He immerses himself in the book, learning that every spell recital will consume his magic, but each successful attempt will boost his skill. Determined, he decides to try this out, envisioning the reversal of a wound as he articulates the healing spell. The first attempt doesn't bear any fruit, causing him to question his suitability as a healer. However, he acknowledges a slight enhancement towards his holy magic affinity. Discovering that his magic energy allows 9 more spell attempts, Lucille perseveres with his practice, even though it leaves him completely drained. It's like nursing a hangover, a sensation he's all too familiar with. As his magic eventually regains, he realizes the necessity to refine his magic control to conserve magic for each spell. The following day, Lucille wakes up feeling late but soon remembers his transformed life. Choosing to detach from his past, he centers his attention on his present world, continuing his magic training and pausing just before complete magic exhaustion. As he awaits magic replenishment, he focuses on enhancing his control over it. Repeating these steps, Lucille starts sensing some level of mastery over it, and progress is evident. Thus, his spirit remains high. During his practice, a girl named Monica visits him with some food. By his 3rd day of training, Lucille successfully casts his first healing spell. Pondering his next step, he considers seeking guidance from Lumina. Monica discloses that Lumina arranged for him to stay at the guild for 10 days. Intrigued by Lumina, Lucille wishes to know more about her, to which Monica reveals Lumina's role as the captain of the church's female paladin division. Lucille feels fortunate to have met Lumina but worries about his next move post the 10 days at the guild. Deciding to promote himself as a healer, Monica informs him about the potential to earn money with his newly learned healing spell, estimating a fair price to be 1 silver coin. Lucille is taken aback by the high value of a single spell, but Monica adds that he'd need to contribute to the guild as per his rank. With his previous business expertise, Lucille plans to secure work, but unexpectedly encounters adventurers from the past. Recognizing them and fearing their reaction, he hurriedly offers his apologies. Bazan, the group's leader, presents an opportunity for Lucille to understand more about adventures. Suddenly, a group of injured rookie adventurers surfaces. They had taken on a risky request and were reaping its harsh consequences. They seem to lack trust in the guild's clinic due to past experiences. Lucille recalls Monica mentioning the existence of corrupt healers charging excessive prices, causing the guild to throw disciplinary actions against them. However, their methods grew increasingly elusive, challenging the law to keep up with them. Reflecting on this, Lucille pledges to be an ethical healer and steps forward, offering his healing services to the injured rookies. Standing in front of the first victim, Lucille reassures her that he will heal her. He begins his healing chant, but to his shock, his magic doesn't work. One of the nearby adventurers questions what he is doing and if he is sure he can heal the injured. Lucille apologizes, acknowledging his mistake. He realizes that he didn't use his mind to visualize how the magic would work. Understanding his error, he knows that in order for the magic to work, he must create a mental image of how the injury can heal itself and be made whole. Determined, he imagines the healing process and utters the chant once again. This time, to his relief, his magic succeeds, and the wound of the first victim begins to heal. With renewed confidence, Lucille proceeds to heal the other injured adventurers. He does his best, dedicating himself to the task at hand. However, after a while, only one injured person remains. Exhaustion starts to take its toll on Lucille, and he realizes that his power is diminishing rapidly. Nevertheless, he hopes to heal the last person before fainting. But his eyes keep closing involuntarily, and eventually, he collapses, unable to carry himself any longer. Lucille recognizes that there is no way he can succeed in healing the final person. He feels a deep sense of sadness as he hears the desperate pleas of those around him, urging him to get up so that the last person doesn't die. Unfortunately, he loses consciousness, and the last injured individual tragically passes away. Lucille eventually wakes up and finds himself sitting on his bed, lost in his thoughts. He feels a profound sense of guilt and regret for not being able to save the life of the last person who needed his help. He recalls the words of the adults who assured him that what had happened wasn't his fault. The realization dawns upon him that if he wants to truly help people and heal them as he desires, he must grow his healing power and level up. Thinking about how he can achieve that, Lucille considers registering at the Adventurer Guild. He believes that by doing so, he will be able to level up quickly and increase his power effectively. Determined to pursue this path, he heads to the guild. As soon as he steps inside, he is captivated by the beautiful and impressive surroundings. Lucille approaches the attendant and expresses his intention to register at the guild. The attendant warmly welcomes him and hands him a form to fill out. Lucille eagerly takes the form and carefully provides all the necessary information. Once he completes the form, he returns it to the attendant, who confirms that he possesses martial arts skills, making him eligible for guild membership. Lucille wonders if he wouldn't have been able to join the guild without any martial arts skills. The attendant explains that having a skill is advantageous for joining the guild. She proceeds to explain the adventurer lifestyle, informing Lucille that he will take missions and receive payment upon successful completion. The guild retains 10% of the earnings as an operational fee. He wonders if there are consequences for failure, and the attendant informs him that there are penalties for unsuccessful missions. Feeling a mix of fear and determination, Lucille asks if there are specific missions for healers. He reveals his healing abilities and admits his lack of combat skills. He wonders if it's possible for him to train in both healing and martial arts at the guild. Curious, he asks if someone can provide him with training, offering his services in exchange. The attendant acknowledges his request and mentions that she needs to consult with her master, the guild leader. Lucille agrees to wait patiently while she seeks permission. A few moments later, the attendant returns with a tall and imposing man. Lucille can't help but feel intimidated by his presence. Reminding himself that he has encountered intimidating individuals before, he resolves to stay composed. The man, known as Broad, addresses Lucille as Kid and asks what he wants. Lucille articulates his desire to work as the guild healer while receiving martial arts training. Broad questions why a healer would want to learn to fight, as healers don't typically require combat skills. Lucille explains that he doesn't want to be a burden to others. He fears that his weakness could cost him his life if he encounters a powerful monster. Broad acknowledges Lucille's concerns and admits that he has a point. He agrees to train Lucille, acknowledging his determination. Lucille can't help but feel relieved. He realizes that Broad's size and appearance are not as intimidating as he initially thought. They engage in a conversation, discussing the terms of Lucille's training. Broad mentions that Lucille will receive a wage of 1 coin, and his training fee will be deducted from that amount. Lucille expresses his gratitude and requests to begin training in 5 days. Broad agrees, and Lucille is directed to an attendant who will take care of him. The attendant, named Nanaella, introduces herself with a warm smile. Lucille reciprocates the smile and shares his name. Suddenly, he feels a sense of being watched and turns to see several men observing him. As he becomes aware of their gaze, one of the men clears his throat and moves away. Lucille assumes that he holds a high position within the guild. Broad then reappears and introduces himself as the guild leader. Lucille expresses his appreciation to Broad and leaves the guild, feeling fulfilled and hopeful. Back at home, Lucille reflects on his visit to the guild and feels glad that he will soon embark on his journey to become stronger. As he contemplates the future that awaits him, Monica enters his room with his food. She inquires about his day and whether he was able to accomplish what he set out to do. Lucille excitedly tells her about his visit to the guild and how they agreed to train him in martial arts. Monica expresses her pride in him. Before leaving, Lucille asks Monica about the level he needs to reach as a healer to be considered a professional. She informs him that if he can reach level 5 before turning 20, he will be recognized as a professional healer. Lucille ponders the task ahead, realizing that he needs to increase his level by 1 each year. Monica playfully adds that if he achieves that, he will take her out on a date. Surprised by her suggestion, Lucille wonders what she means by a date. Nevertheless, he feels encouraged and determined to achieve his goal so he can take Monica out. A week later, Lucille begins his training. The crash course in holy magic flies by, and soon, he completes it. Filled with a sense of accomplishment, he returns to the Healers Guild, where he meets Kururu. He expresses his gratitude to her for staying by his side and assisting him. Recognizing his progress, Kururu praises him, describing him as a great healer. She also mentions that there is work waiting for him even before he finishes, increasing his affinity. Lucille appreciates Kururu's support and assures her that he will check up on Lumina, as per her request. Eager to continue his journey, Lucille heads back to the guild. As soon as he enters, he notices multiple eyes fixed on him. The stares feel oddly familiar, reminiscent of attending a board meeting with disappointing sales figures. He approaches the attendant, realizing that it's a different person this time, not Nanaella. He introduces himself and explains that he is the new adventurer who will be training with Broad. The attendant recognizes him and instructs him to go underground, where he will find the training center. Following the directions, Lucille arrives at the training center and sees Broad waiting for him. He realizes they are the only ones present. Broad's piercing gaze sends shivers down his spine, but Lucille refuses to show weakness. He greets Broad, who expresses surprise that Lucille didn't run away after seeing him. Broad reveals that they will be the only ones training together. Lucille feels a tinge of fear, but it doesn't compare to what he experienced on Earth. He maintains his composure and bows, assuring Broad that he is ready to learn. Broad acknowledges Lucille's courage and initiates their training. The training sessions are grueling. Broad instructs Lucille to run until exhaustion, pushing him to his limits. Lucille runs until he can't run anymore, feeling the pain and fatigue in his body. He inwardly refers to Broad as wicked but admits that compared to his life on Earth and how he died, his current existence feels like heaven. In a strange way, he embraces the physical challenges as a sign of his new life. Pushing through the pain, Lucille suddenly collapses from exhaustion. After recovering from his fatigue, Lucille finds Broad sitting on his back, screaming loudly. Startled, Lucille wonders what Broad's intentions are. Following this intense encounter, Broad instructs Lucille to fight him. Lucille musters all his strength and throws a weak strike at Broad. Disappointed, Broad questions if that's as far as Lucille can go. Lucille admits his current limitations but emphasizes his determination to improve. They conclude their training for the day, and Broad advises Lucille to train hard, pushing himself to the point of exhaustion. Broad also forbids Lucille from using magic to heal himself, stating that natural healing will strengthen his abilities. Deeply grateful for Broad's guidance, Lucille questions why there aren't more adventurers in training. Broad explains that young adventurers often lack the funds to undergo training, so they immediately venture into missions and risk facing dangers in the forest. Broad expresses his desire for Lucille to heal everyone, regardless of age or race. Lucille promises to do his best and pledges to heal anyone who seeks his help. A group of injured adventurers arrives at the scene. Initially skeptical, they doubt that Lucille would be willing to heal them. However, to their surprise, Lucille begins treating their injuries without expecting any payment in return. The adventurers' skepticism turns into gratitude as they witness Lucille's genuine compassion and skill. He realizes that healers have a negative reputation in this country, and he wants to change that perception. Broad commends Lucille's dedication, remarking that the world would be a better place with more healers like him. He invites Lucille to live at the guild, providing free lodging and meals. Feeling a sense of purpose and fulfillment in his new surroundings, Lucille agrees that he has found a place where he can make a difference. With that, our episode comes to an end. Thanks for your time. If you stayed until the end, please like and subscribe for more.